Good afternoon, everyone. On behalf of the ISO, I'd like to welcome you to today's FERC Order 881 Implementation Stakeholder Call. My name is Christina Guimero, representing ISO Stakeholder Affairs, and I will be facilitating today's meeting. Next slide, please. This call is being recorded for informational and convenience purposes only. Any related transcriptions should not be reprinted without the ISO's permission. Please keep comments respectful and brief today. Next slide, please. To ask questions during the meeting, you can open the participant and chat panels on the bottom right. You can then raise your hand by selecting the raise hand icon, or if you joined audio only, please press *3 on your device. Please state your name and affiliation first before speaking, and you can also send comments and questions via chat to all panelists or directly to me. Next slide, please. Today's meeting will include an overview on CAISO project timeline delays by Raja, Andrew, and Robert. Then we'll wrap up for the day and discuss next steps. So with that, I'll turn it over to Raja to get us started. And next slide, please.
Thank you, Christina. Good afternoon, everybody. This is Raja Tapitobula. I'm the Director of RC West Operations. As Christina mentioned, I know here we are to talk about some of the delays that CAISO RC West is experiencing with respect to the FERC 881. On top of that, we also, as we mentioned in December stakeholder call, that we filed for an extension, and Andrew Wilmer will be talking about more in details. We've been getting a lot of questions lately, and what does that extension mean to everybody? So Andrew is going to detail explain what does that mean to ISO PTOs, as well as some of the EDAM entities and future EDAM entities and existing EAM entities, right? So there's RC West TOPs, non-RC West TOPs. So we're hoping that we clear all the questions, concerns that some of the TOPs has reached out with to us. So hopefully we'll clear all those confusions today. Before I hand off to Andrew, just want to lay it out where we are today, right? Ultimately, as we have been going through, we have 3 different tracks. Track one is the real-time reliability applications. So our goal was to, by end of December, we have the code. The code was ready in production, but there were some minor issues that we encountered, but we were working with the TOPs to get the data. Some of the TOPs are working with Sirajal, who's our subject matter expert in mapping, getting the SCADA mapping done and getting those information into our real-time applications. So there's different entities are working with them. So ultimately the code is ready, other than minor issues, which we are working with Siemens to fix it. But in the meantime, in the back end, we're actually working with entities to set up the mappings. So any of the TOPs that are intending to utilize the real-time AARs in your EMS process for your operators, please work with Sirajal and set up and start working on that process. If you need more information, Sirajal can be reached out, or he's on the call. If there's any questions, we can have him help with the questions. So that's the track one. Again, only real-time purposes, right? So there's no market. Market will not use this AARs at this point of time. And the track 2, there's different components in the track 2, but ultimately the main component of the track 2 is the WebLineR tool, which is going to be our interface where we're going to work, where we acquire all the look-ahead 240 hours ratings from each of the TOPs and ISO PTOs. That is still on target. I know we have Robert Cooch, who's our project manager. He's going to share some of the implementation details on that, some of the training details, hopefully address all the questions that the TOPs have. That is still on track to get it done by June 2025. I know we are asking for an extension from utilizing these ratings in our downstream processes, but ultimately we still want the TOPs that are still planning to utilize these AARs, look ahead ratings, may work with us and send those ratings to us through the WebLineR. Even though it is at this point will not be using in production, but we want to acquire the ratings and analyze the ratings and see how the ratings are changing between hours to hours, and any things that we need to change on our tools and any of the processes that we need to develop for operators awareness point of view. So that information will help us out. Maybe we can call this a live production testing, whatever you want to call. That is a track 2, and the track 3 is the last component, which utilization of these ratings in all the downstream applications. So from a ISO, BA, and market operator role point of view, all the day-ahead market, all the real-time market applications, and then from an RC West lens point of view, all our look-ahead applications, the day-ahead reliability analysis, our outage coordination processes. So all those processes will start utilizing. Again, our goal is, I know even with the extension delays that we're talking about, our goal is to have all this done by December 17, 2026. And with that, I hand off to Andrew Ulmer, who's going to take on next slides and talk about our some of the compliance filings that we did for an extension. Andrew, thank you. Stylus, next slide, and hand off to Andrew. Thank you.
Andrew, if you're speaking, you may be double muted. Oh, there you go.
Hi, good afternoon. Thank you, Raja. Before I start, I just want to pause and see if there are any foundational questions. What I'll do is maybe give you a little bit of an overview on our procedural stance with respect to order number 881 implementation, and practically sort of what that means, the importance of that to California ISO participating transmission owners, and then also, as Raja suggested, prospective EDAM entities, existing WEIM entities, as well as RC customers, RC West customers. But let me stop and see if there are any foundational questions before I begin.
Thanks, Andrew. I'm not seeing any questions coming in quite yet.
Okay. Well, let me then give you a brief sketch for those that have been following along for a couple of years or so. We did file a compliance filing with order number 881 back July of 2022. That compliance filing was largely accepted by the Commission with some direction to incorporate some additional language that came out of order number 881. We then submitted a subsequent compliance filing in 2023, and the Commission accepted that. As we've gone through our implementation work, we did uncover what I think we see as enhancements to our existing order 881 tariff language that dealt with some clarifications involving communications, how folks can access ratings that are utilized in our markets, when we will pull ratings and use them for purposes of our market processes, how we deal with ratings when they are unavailable, if you will, kind of what's our fallback logic when we don't have a current rating for an applicable market interval. And then really just a clarification that the provisions of our Order 881 tariff, when we filed them, they extended to our participating transmission owners for the day-ahead market, but also for the real-time market, and also extended to WEIM entities. And then we've expanded this to also apply to EDAM entities in the day-ahead market. So we have these clarifications. We submitted them to the Commission in January. We're waiting for an order. In January, we also filed a motion for an extension of time, and we requested that FERC take up that motion in the order on our additional tariff revisions. So we're waiting. We've asked that the Commission address those tariff revisions in the middle of April, and are hopeful that the Commission will take up our motion at that time as well. So that's procedurally where where we stand, and maybe I can then ask Silas if you will move to the next slide, where I can give you kind of an overview of the relief we requested in our motion for an extension, because it is a little nuanced. Essentially, as Raj's first slide stated, we asked for an extension of time to get our systems in place in order to implement order number 881 in the ISO's markets up to and including December 17th, 2026. We said in that motion that we're going to be working to roll out these systems and make them available for purposes of use in our markets well before that date. So that outer date is really out of an abundance of caution date for potential unforeseen delays. But our expectation is that we will have the functionality ready to deploy for use in our day-ahead and real-time markets well in advance of December in 2026. In fact, in the first half of 2026. However, we also asked that the Commission authorize an extension for California ISO participating transmission owners to come into full compliance with our order number 881 tariff up to including October of 2027. So even though our market systems are ready to go and we can take ambient adjusted ratings and incorporate them into our market processes, we recognize that some of our transmission owners may need more time on their side of the equation, and in conjunction with utilizing our systems to feel to get to a point where they feel that they are ready to move that rating framework into production. So while we have an outer date for us to get our systems in place, we've also asked that the Commission authorize an outer date for our participating transmission owners to come into compliance with our order number 881 tariff. Likewise, we've asked for a similar outer date for prospective EDAM entities and WEIM entities as it relates to their submission of ratings into our market processes. So effectively a similar request that would apply to EDAM and to prospective EDAM entities and WEIM entities. What this motion doesn't extend to is any requirement that those entities have under their open access transmission tariffs to utilize ambient adjusted ratings in the forward sale of transmission. It only applies to the utilization of ambient adjusted ratings in the day-ahead markets, real-time markets that the ISO is administering. So that's an important nuance. If there's a requirement for an EDAM, prospective EDAM entity or an existing WEIM entity to utilize ambient adjusted ratings in the forward sale of transmission, they need to manage that requirement themselves, either comply or request more time. And again, we ask that the Commission address this motion by mid-April. Now, practically speaking, what does that mean? I think it sort of unfolds kind of logically. There's a period of time where we're working to make sure that our market systems are ready to implement order number 881. And as Raza suggested, those are going to come on over a period of time. But we're optimistic that those will be ready to go in the first half of 2026. And those same systems really are going to be supporting RC customers as well. So RC customers that are transmission operators. So to the extent that there's a need for submission of ratings, as Roger suggested, once we have the WebINR up and running, we can start to look at those ratings. But really, the use of them in the look-ahead applications, the look-ahead reliability applications, is going to take more time. But otherwise, the dates are set forth in the motion are, I think, fairly self-explanatory. What we did commit to the Commission was if they granted our motion, we would certainly commit to filing informational reports to give them status updates with respect to the ISO's own efforts to deploy its market systems, but also where we are in the space of bringing transmission owners, bringing EDAM entities, WEIM entities into the market processes consistent with the tariff requirements we have for implementing order number 881. So that's part of the relief we requested, is making that commitment to submit some informational reports to give the commission some assurance that we are making progress and on our track to meet the dates, the outer dates specified in the motion. I'll stop there and Christina, open it up for any questions or observations that folks have.
Thanks, Andrew. Before we go to the raised hands, we did receive a question in the chat from Rod Fude asking if we are seeing any issues in implementing real-time ICCP disconnected from the forecast values for security and market.
Hey, Andrew, I can respond. Rod, correct me if you understand your question correctly. Our current processes, right? We only have one TOP that is sending us the ratings through ICCP. And we don't foresee any issues. I think the only long-term strategy for us is, depending upon if anything happens to the ICCP link, we would like to fall back onto the forecasted ratings for up to 1 hour. Obviously, without the forecasted ratings, that component, we cannot use it. So for each of the TOPs that are going to send only through the ICCP, we have a default time where we can fall back to the seasonal ratings. So that can be adjusted depending upon, that's from a real-time process. And most of the TOPs that are sending us, that are working with us, they're actually utilizing those ratings today. And how we manage is through manual communication today, right? Through it's our RC operators call the entities and then adjust a rating, then we use it, right? So it's all manual. So we're kind of automating that aspect of it. Now, if I understand your question correctly, obviously we will not be using these ratings in the EAM market at this point of time. Now, again, if the TOPs that are sending us through ICCP, sending the ratings through ICCP, they can still utilize the market conformance and adjust if without the availability of AAR, if that is the question that you're referring to. Hope I addressed your question, right?
Thank you. Next, we have a hand raised by Sao Rub.
Can you hear me, Christine?
Yes.
Okay. Hi. Questions for Raja and Andrew. This is Saurabh Bonga, Manager, Power Operations Engineering here at SMUD. The question is more regarding this comment for the public utility transmission providers in EDAM. So SMUD, we are, public utility, not in FERC jurisdiction, and we, are not at this point planning to do the full blast AARs implementation. We were, our vision is to do seasonal submission, perhaps, and you have our ratings through the full network model or whatnot. So my question is, we are, as you know, would be joining the EDAM market in 2027. So what is, your expectation from us? At this point, that's the setup we are targeting, to just do the seasonal ratings and not do the full-blown AARs. I just want to make sure that is acceptable path forward.
Saurabh, hi, it's Andrew Ulmer. It's great to hear your voice. I hope you're well.
Hey, Andrew. Yes.
I would say a couple of things. One, we're a little probably hesitant to provide any kind of what I'll call regulatory guidance on a stakeholder call about obligations that might extend to any given entity, but recognizing SMUD is obviously a public utility, a publicly owned utility, non-public utility under the Federal Power Act. I think it probably makes sense to talk with folks in SMUD's legal group just to, cross the T's and dot the I's to understand what ramifications exist under Order 8.1, whether SMUD has some kind of reciprocity tariff that it needs to administer. But at the end of the day, from the California ISO's perspective, we're taking the ratings, right? The ratings could be seasonal ratings. The ratings could be hourly ratings. The ratings could be dynamic ratings. We're gonna take the ratings. Obviously, there'll be some level of check or assurances that the ratings are logical and make sense. But then we're just going to utilize those. We are not going to try to create ratings on our own by any stretch of the imagination. So in terms of the dynamic of how an entity like SMUD or any really other entity participates in the ISO's markets, we're happy to kind of have a conversation about that and talk about what are the appropriate inputs and take that offline. But largely speaking, the expectation is that we will get ratings in the web line, our tool, and those ratings could be seasonal, they could be hourly, it could be seasonal or hourly, whether they're ambient adjusted ratings or dynamic ratings. And then we will then pull effectively those ratings and utilize them in our market processes. I know that doesn't answer the question, the ultimate question you're asking, but that's probably the best I can give you at this point.
No, that is helpful. Again, yes, we are working with our legal folks definitely on our side. I just wanted to make sure, ISO did not have or was not proposing something where the EDAM entity, has to, or there's some restrictions around that. That's what I was.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. We're not effectively trying to expand the requirements of FERC's order to otherwise extend to entities it doesn't apply to.
Okay, so yeah, so I think I got my answer in terms of that the seasonal rating is counted as a type of rating which you would use in the absence of AARs for EDAM and
Correct.
EIM market purposes. Thank you.
Next, we have a hand raised by Sunman.
Hi, Raja. Hi, Andrew. This is Sanman Rokade from Portland General Electric. This could be a very basic question, but relating to the bullet point of non-CAISO entities participating in EDAM and WEIM submitting their ratings. If PG is planning to submit or meet its Order 881 requirements by the intended date of July this year, would there be some sort of an acknowledgement from the RC or the EDAM or market operators that PG is meeting CAISO's requirement, just so that we can, officially do a handshake that you are getting what we are required from us, and when it comes to the implementation of it, CAISO will take their own time, but just to get a sense of, yes, we are meeting your obligation, would there be some kind of a communication or official acceptance that CAISO is thinking about sending the participants?
Let me try and respond. And again, I may fail to give you an easy, simple, direct response. But I think a lot of the tensions that exist here arise because the ISO's footprint, or RC West's footprint, let me say that, the WEIM footprint, the prospective EDAM footprint, the ISO footprint, they're not coincident. They're not coterminous. They all are different. If they were all the same, perhaps there'd be an easy, set of answers to some of these questions, or an easier set of answers to some of these questions. But also the Commission's Order 881 really extends to transmission service. Reliability coordinator functions really aren't transmission service. They're reliability service under the ERO model. The fact is, though, that we are utilizing and leveraging our systems to provide those services. And I think that's the most effective way to do that. So when we talk about, an RC West customer complying with Order 881, we're sort of using language that doesn't quite fit together. Yes, you might be an RC West customer. Yes, you might have Order 881 requirements, but that's not how, we think about Order 881 in the context of reliability coordination. And at the same time, of course, it all deals with ratings, which are very important to the reliability look-ahead assessments and things of that nature. So there's no question that the two intersect. But to the extent that, say, an entity like Portland is looking to participate in the Western Energy Imbalance Market, looking ahead to participate in the extended day-ahead market, and is also having requirements under its own open access transmission tariff to comply with Order 881. Our motion would obviously extend to how an entity like Portland engages with the WEIM or engages with EGAM, and to the extent there was a need for some kind of assurance that Portland was giving RC West the information it needed to perform its reliability coordination function. I think that communication would happen in the space of RC West to RC West customer, and we could explore what is necessary or appropriate there. So again, not an answer to your question directly, but my hope is that probably provides a little bit more context for how we're thinking about it conceptually, and the opportunities to make sure we stay coordinated as we go through these implementation steps to make the systems we need available for performing both our market optimization, but also in order to do some of the reliability look ahead functions as well.
Got it. No, appreciate that context. Maybe to phrase that slightly differently, is there anything different entities who are participating in EDAM or WEIM would have to do to show compliance of submitting their day-ahead ratings or forecasted ratings to the market operator outside what they're doing for the reliability coordinator?
Yeah, that's a good question, and it's good to think about it from that perspective. And I'll let Raja expand, but I think utilizing the WebLiner platform, populating that application with the ratings, the look-ahead ratings, will give us as both market operator, but also as RC, the information we will need to perform the analyses and functions that we need to perform. So, and we get to our end stage. I think the submission of those ratings into WebLiner will be it, and we will have what we need. But Raja, I'll let you expand.
No, thank you, Andrew. I think I think definitely we'd I think from a compliance point of view, I'm not sure if we cover, hey, if you're receiving the ratings, but we are not using in our look ahead reliability application processes yet, does that mean? So I would want you to check with your compliance folks, right? But that being said, we would definitely be glad to get those ratings into the WebLiner and then analyze. At least that is our goal, to analyze how things are changing, how ratings are changing. What are the different processes that we need to establish to start using them, right? Along with using the tools, obviously we need to make sure that our operators are aware how the ratings are changing for each TOP, when they're changing. That way they can better prepare depending upon the rate of the time of the day and when the ratings change, how things will change from a congestion point of view. Does that help your question, Salman?
Slightly, I guess I still wasn't clear that if you have to do anything different in terms of showing compliance of providing ratings to the markets, as opposed to showing compliance and providing ratings for reliability application. So I think I'm hearing they might be the same, like if you're submitting it to WebLiner, that will get propagated and used for both applications, I think, as what you highlighted, but just from a compliance standpoint, that also holds true, that if we were just sending you the ratings through HTTP and WebLiner, that we are complying with CAISO as a reliability coordinator's requirement and CAISO as a market operator's requirement to utilize to implement Order 881 requirement. Would that be fair to say?
Okay. Yeah, I think again from our the tool is the same, right? I think that's what you're referring to. It's all the data is coming in, the 240 hours of data, depending upon which application that the different role that we have from an RCVS point of view. We have our look ahead reliability applications, our outage coordination process for up to 7 days. We use our IOCC tool. So they will, depending upon that tool, they're going to, when they're running that analysis, they're going to acquire the ratings from this WebLiner. So from your point of view, you're not, you're sending to one location, but the tools are based upon when they're executing, right? From a market operator role, when the EDAM executing, right? From an EAM market role, right? When it's being executed. It depends upon the timing of that run, right? But from your point of view, it's the same. It's one location.
Perfect. I think that's probably what I was trying to get to. So thank you for that.
Good. Thank you.
And I'm not seeing any other hands raised at this time. Oh, wait, I think I see another one. Next up, we have Doug.
Hey, good afternoon. Doug Campbell, Arizona Public Service. I just had a question. There were some questions about submitting rate market purposes. I was curious. I mean, we can get these AAR ratings into the market tools, but ultimately, unless a TOP utilizes the constraint management feature of the market and activates monitoring elements, it's really kind of a moot point, right? There's nothing. The market, there's no requirement to use the constraint management feature in the market, right? It's up to each TOP. I mean, our experience at APS is that most in the Southwest are not using it for that feature. APS seems to be kind of a lone entity. So I'm just wondering what is being done to maybe encourage more use of that.
Can you, maybe I missed understanding question. Can you elaborate more?
We can make sure that the market, once it's been rolled out, the AR ratings are implemented for the future looking intervals, but unless the entities are actually enabling monitoring of those elements in the market, they're not going to be used for any market congestion management. So I'm just curious with all the effort to get that working in the market, but if most of the entities in the Southwest don't use that feature, then it's not really doing anything. So I'm just curious
I see your point, Doug. I think I do agree the value of these ratings, right? Again, I think the entities, if they're using in real-time reliability purposes and managing that, I think your concern is if they're not utilizing market to provide congestion management, right? I think that's what you're referring to.
Yes. Yeah, we see most of the training seems to be on the BA side for management of the balancing, but there's little training on the TOP side in most entities in the Southwest to implement the constraint management feature. So I'm just saying, if we're going to go through this effort, unless the entities are using it, it doesn't. I'm just wondering what benefits it's offering. Unless, you're not requiring entities to use the constraint management feature in the market, right?
Right. I think the market operator role, right, that ISO has does not force anybody, right? It does not force entities to use the market for congestion management. That being said, right, I think there's different other mechanisms, right? As under the RC umbrella, if we find reliability issues, that the best way is the market, right? The RC and TOP work together, and obviously that it's up to the TOP to use the market or not. As long as the reliability issue is being solved, RC is fine, but those discussions will definitely come in that aspects of it. To if there's an operational issue that RC and TUP are working together, right? But again, it's on the TUP, so ISO does not can force anybody to use the market if that's what you're referring to. Doug?
Yeah, my only point is if we go through the effort of submitting it, but then it's not used by the entity, then it doesn't really fulfill anything. So, but for RC real-time purposes, yes, but for the market, it's kind of a moot point.
Yep, fair point, Doug.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, next in the queue, we have Casey. Casey, if you're unmuted, you might be double muted.
Can you all hear me now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, this is Casey Perry with the Public Service Company in Mexico. My question surrounds the IRO 10 data specification. There are dates assigned to the ICCP requirements related to FERC Order 881 in there. If there is an extension approved, would those due dates be subject to change? And the current dates are 7/1/2025.
So Andrew, let me know if I'm wrong. I think we have to work around that, right? It's not a requirement. We have the tools ready, and if the TOP is not willing to utilize, then it's fine, right? Right?
Yeah, I think what again, for purposes of the data spec under the reliability coordinator function, I think we proposed this in order to, at the time, we're looking at this June as a implementation date. Does the data spec, create a compliance requirement under order number 881? Not necessarily. And I think what we were trying to do is, create a pathway for entities to share ratings with us through ICCP. So that may be a discussion item that needs to happen in the context of an RC West conversation where with RC West customers looking at, well, are folks ready to share ratings under that data spec via ICCP, or is there a need for individual RC West customers to take more time to do so? I know that's something that we're geared up to work through. The motion that we filed with the commission does not extend to that question about the submission of ratings under the NERC standard using the data spec under the RC West framework.
Okay, thank you.
And again, folks have different perspectives on transmission line ratings, right? One could have said, well, all of this should have been dealt with under the sort of a NERC model, right? Like the standard itself, that there was need to be a rating change, should have required that ratings change as on this frequency or something like that. But instead, FERC took the issue up in the context of whether or not transmission service being provided was just and reasonable, or
right.
whether more dynamic ratings or ambient adjusted ratings were necessary.
All right, thank you for the clarification.
Thank you. Next in the queue, we have Veera Kumar.
Hello. So I have a question on these dates. I see there is one that says Q1, Q2 2026 for real-time and day-ahead market, and December 2026 and October 2027 for the actual requirement implementation. So what does these two different dates mean? Is it possible to elaborate?
Yeah, fair question. So again, we have an obligation to comply by a certain date, and we've requested that the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission extend that date in which we're obligated to comply, which we must comply, to December of 2026. We're working to comply at an earlier date by Q1, Q2 of 2026. And when our systems are ready to go, we've asked for FERC to give us authority to make the tariff provisions we have effective in advance of December of 2026. But we've asked for the additional time sort of out of an abundance of caution in case we run across unforeseen problems between now and first quarter of 2026. Does that help?
Yes. Thank you, Andrew.
And I'm not seeing any other hands raised at the moment. And for those who are sending questions in via chat, we're responding back via chat, so please be patient with us. So yeah, back to you.
Oh, okay. Well, this is Andrew. I don't have more. I know you have a couple more slides to talk about maybe some of the schedule for implementation, which might address some of the questions or sub-questions that are being posed in the chat. But for that, I'll turn it over to Roger or Robert.
Thank you, Andrew. Next slide. Okay, I think this slide covers the last 3 or 4 slides that we're talking about. Right at the end of the day, from a tools implementation point of view, this is the phase that we are working towards. I know the ICCP, as I mentioned, the code is done, and we're working with some of the TUPs on the mapping and everything. So hopefully those TUPs will start using by June 2025. It's only real-time purposes at this point of time. The second one is the June 2025 is the WebLiner tool will be ready. At this point of time, again, it's as reiterating, as Andrew mentioned, we are not planning to use the ratings in any of the downstream application yet, but we would like to receive the ratings and see how and evaluate those ratings and develop operational operational awareness from an operator's point of view. The first code, again, the code will be dropped by sometime later this year, but ultimately we want to start using the real-time ratings in the EAM market on January 2026. After January 2026, that once that is done, then EAM entities can start submitting the look-ahead ratings into the WebLiner, and those ratings will be used in the EAM market, only real-time market purposes, right? The HASP all the way to the RTD. Now, the code for day-ahead market, EDAM purposes, right? I know we have Pacific Order that is starting EDAM May 1st, 2026, and we plan to have that enabled by the time. Then at that point, the day-ahead market can start using the look-ahead ratings based upon the ISO PTOs and then Pacific Orders sending those ratings into those processes. And at the same time, pretty much most of the RC West look-ahead reliability applications, as I mentioned, the IOCC, which is our outage coordination studies purposes, and then the OPA, the day-ahead OPA. So all the processes at once this code drop in April 2026 is available, those processes, we can start using those look-ahead ratings as well. So along with the day-ahead market, we can start using all the reliability applications for the entities that are submitting the AARs into the WebLiner. So after that, December 2026, as Andrew mentioned, December 17, 2026, which is going to be our new compliance date granted for approval. We want to finish it up, remaining processes from ISO compliance point of view, especially the usage of nomograms, and there's a couple of seasonal TTC calculation processes, and also on the COI, we are looking at how often we need to do the TTC calculations, how often ISOB needs to do the TTC calculations, and those things, depending upon what the outcome of the discussions, December 2026, we plan to enable those applications. So there's another thing, major component that we plan to use later in the 2026 is the usage of AARs in the remedial action schemes. I know having a conversation with some of the TOPs, they are intending to utilize those AARs in the field for the remedial action schemes. If the TOPs enable them, then we need to make changes into our processes, how our existing RTCA has remedial action schemes and they're hard coded with the seasonal ratings. We need to make software changes so that if for the RASs that TOPs are enabling hourly ARs, then we need to use them in our RTCA. So we are using the same rating for evaluating the impact of RAS on a contingency, right? So those things will need to be enabled in sometime in the third part of fourth quarter of 2026. Any questions before we go on to the next slide?
Yes, we have a hand raised by Vera Kumar.
Hello. This is a question from PG&E. So I see there is a template, the first part of this slide is talking about the template, MVA templates, right? That we have to provide the mapping.
Yep.
One concern I have is that the MVA template has component description that is not matching the KAISO's own TR information. So the template seems to be from some internal model where the equipment descriptions, the tower structures are not matching. This makes it hard to do the mapping. So is that something KAISO can look into?
Yeah, I know Cyril is on the call, but I think this one, it would be good, if you reach out to us offline and we can look into that and see what is the issue and how we can address or we can help address. So you can, I know Cyril is on the call. If you can reach out to,
I can explain.
Yeah, go ahead, Cyril.
Yes, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, we discussed this because PG&E doesn't submit in a SIM format, right? So it's all manual data submission that we have to map. So we have been working with PG&E EMS team. I think probably you can contact Vinit and Juan at PG&E site. So we gave them enough information, and they are almost done mapping the ICCP ID with the RDF ID we have on our system provided in the template. So we have been working with PG&E. Probably if you can follow up with Vinit, you will get detailed information.
Thank you, Sergio. Veera, you can reach out to us offline too, so we can help address that issue if you didn't get if you didn't get the answer that you're looking for.
Yes, I'll follow up offline. Thank you.
Thank you. Next in the queue, we have Rod.
Yeah, just a question, because you said on WebLine R on June will be ready to receive. Will there be clearinghouse values as well available to download through the WebLine R at that point, or that would be a future milestone? Also, the same for the ICCP. So they will be sending. Would there be clearinghouse values? Also, maybe tie lines would be available to receive as well, or just if you elaborate on that. Thank you.
Yeah, I will. Rod, I will address the ICCP one. At this point of time, we don't have the clearinghouse in the ICCP. I know internally we're still talking about if we can do that and maybe enable that the output of that through another point that entities can download. That at least from ICCP, but in the WebLine R, yes, the code will be ready in June, and everything. If you go live in July, based upon the FERC deadlines, and again, it all depends upon how many TOPs are sending the ratings. Right, the tool will be ready, the APS will be ready to clear the ratings, but if the entities are not sending, then it won't have any cleared ratings, right? So I know we had these questions from different TOPs. So if two neighboring TOPs send the ratings, continues to send the ratings, and it can do the clearing, so and you have to coordinate with other TOP to make sure they're also sending the ratings, right? So just sending yourself will not do anything. So the tool will be ready if that addresses your question.
It does that. Can I ask you just a continuation, not exactly rated? Initially, the WebLine R was 2.51 and is now 2.55. This June, what version of WebLine R I don't know whether maybe OATI question, what version of WebLine R will be available with this June 25 data submission?
I know
I
Indu
can
is on
take
the call.
that.
Go ahead, Indu.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, Rod, we are not able to predict what version will be there in June. Depends upon the upgrades or any enhancements that we would want to be done before we go live. At this point, we are just making sure that as part of market sim, whatever issues that we are getting, we're able to fix that. But we cannot guarantee what version is going to be available during production. But may I ask? Does it affect you in any way?
Of course, yeah, as you know, so because we have to change software and there is a lot of customers have to distribute it. Yeah, of course it does. Also,
no, yeah. So there won't be any significant changes to the base product, such that you would require to make any changes. If at all there is any, there will be API changes specifically, but unless something significant is found in market sim, there won't be any significant changes that will require you to make a lot of changes on your side as well.
Thank you.
And I'm not seeing any further questions in the queue.
Thank you, Christina. Next slide. We have an echo going on. Okay, thank you. So again, I know there have been some questions that entities typed in the chat, as well as we have been getting questions surrounding how WebLiner will work, right? So we try to share some information here, and obviously we can, if there's any further questions on the WebLiner, we can field that questions and help address the questions here in the call. Go to the next slide, Silas. So this one, Robert Cooch, who's our project manager, will talk about some of the timelines on the WebLiner product. Go ahead, Robert.
Good afternoon. Thank you for tuning. Going over a very high-line timeline, not a whole lot of new information here, stuff that had already been kind of covered here, but just a little bit of a graphical form of where we are at for this. So right now, starting at the beginning of the year, we were doing a limited market sim where you can go through and do a connectivity test to it, make sure you have access to the application, you're able to access the UI of the application here. We are planning on actually on Monday the 14th, being able to do a full market sim, in which case we will be opening up the API for this, which case you will be able to do your full connectivity to it. You'll be able to upload your information using the API, and you will be able to download the information, run all your queries, everything you need to through the API application, as well as finish off any of the scenario testing that you would like to run at that time. And that testing will continue to be open all the way through June for this. And looking at some of the responses I'm getting over here, for those who are asking about versioning, right now for the market sim, we are testing version 1.6.3. So any questions on at least the WebLine R timeline?
I don't believe any questions regarding the timeline are coming in at this moment.
Okay, next slide. This is, again, kind of a graphical from a previous slide that was put together. It tells us kind of what we're looking for overall for the remaining of the tracks. I did add, for a few other information here, we do have the TR, at least for the autoloader piece of it, though, and when the UI, that will be separated into two different market sims. For those using for the TR, Other than that, these timelines basically fall in line with the previous graphics, what we talked about for each of the implementation pieces. And I don't think anything really new on this. That's all I've got. Any questions?
I have a hand raised by Rod.
Actually, let's say some customer actually switches to WebLine R and hourly submitting. What does it take to switch back, and do you see any issues with it?
With the, I'm sorry, this is the switch back?
Yeah, so let's say, for example, they switch using WebLine R for that particular, maybe at least a subset of for that. So they find some issues and they wanted to switch back to seasonals. So is that just a normal process of submitting those hourly seasonals as hourly values, or that's in other words, what's the transition? What's the transition process if something is wrong?
Before I answer that, I'm going to actually reach out to my team. Yeah, go ahead, Raj.
Yeah, I think, Rod, if I understand correctly, I think there's different times. I know one of the questions that Bill Ruthrup was asking around in ICCP, right? Right now in ICCP, right, we didn't hard code it. We have different TUP. We can set up in a way where each TUP, how long, when do you want to fall back to seasonal rating, right? For example, if the ICCP link goes down more than an hour or 2 hours or 3 hours, right? So do you want to fall back to that to the seasonal rating? That's one fallback. The other one in the day ahead market, I know we had that question. The way we are building this, there's a fallback to the seasonal ratings, yes. But it all depends upon each TUP too, right? We can continue to use for 4 days, 5 days. I know there's different questions that we had. We had discussions with different TUPs, and our, even our forecasting team. Up to 4 days or 5 days, we can continue to use the previous day's ratings, right? Previous day's ratings. So each TUP can be different, so we can fall back to the seasonal ratings based upon that. And the same thing in the real time too, right? Do you want to use up to 5 hours or 6 hours or 7 hours and fall back to the seasonal ratings? So there's no one answer, but each processes, each time horizon will be different.
Yeah, thank you. I guess just mostly because these are now introduced different time. So that's why I was asking this question, that initially that is only real time, and the forecast values are sent as as you call it, production trial type of a deal. So in that scheme, in other words, if they were all introduced at the same time, yeah, I think that probably all works as you were saying and can be configured and selected by the utility. But since now they are introduced, so there may be, I can't think of anything, but just more, maybe some provision is needed for that in addition to in a normal process.
Yeah, I think more business processes need to be developed too on this. Like, again, I think this is where I think if we get the ARs and see how often they're changing, these are the questions that will help address, right? Because right now we're operating, we have not seen any of the TUP's ratings, how often they change, right? We have not seen rating methodologies. So some of the default assumptions might be changed when we start getting the data. So that's the nature of this, right? Depends upon when they're changing or often they're calculating and how much they're changing too, right? So
Yeah, I agree. We are learning, right?
Yep, exactly. And which we have not seen it too. That's the, I know each of the TUPs has seen it, but yeah, thank you. But
Thank you. Yeah, thank you.
And I'm not seeing any further hands raised at this moment.
Thank you. Robert, I think it's done. We can move on to the next slide, Silas.
Yeah, I don't think, was there another slide? Oh, the details. Go ahead.
Yep. So again, I tried to put together some of the questions that we have been getting from the TUPs, right? We didn't add in details, in depth of WebLiner tool. That is not the purpose, right? But if there's any questions, we can definitely, we have the right people here that can help address those questions. So again, WebLineR is going to be the main tool, right, to receive the ambient register ratings and seasonal ratings for the RCWS TOPs. But even the model building process that we have, we receive the seasonal ratings. That being said, with the AARs, with the WebLineR tool, there's an opportunity to actually adjust any seasonal ratings in between the model update process too. So that's the benefit of this new WebLiner tool. I know another key point that I want to make from an ISO PTO's point of view. I know there's a different role that ISO BA has. From a PTO's point of view, the ISO has the transmission registry tool, which is famously called TR tool. That will still be the primary interface for managing the seasonal ratings. And the reason being, there's a different obligations that ISO has for the PTOs to check the components that are each of the ratings, seasonal ratings. So that is the reason we still have that function still in the TR. There's a project, again, that project has not been scheduled yet. Down the line, we still, based upon the discussions with the PTOs and our technology internally, we want to move that function from the only rating function from the TR into WebLineR. Until that being done, the seasonal ratings will still continue to go through the TR registry process, transmission registry. But that being said, any of the ARs that are coming in will go into the WebLineR. That is the only difference. Other than that, WebLineR will be the a primary tool from an AR point of view and seasonal ratings point of view. Again, as I know you've been going through different forums, right? Participants will manage their ratings in WebLineR with a user interface or API import. And the nice feature is any of those changes, our intention is those ratings will be transmitted to the downstream systems right away. Next slide. So another, from a compliance point of view, the AR will be retained in WebLineR for a period of 5 years in accordance with the FERC Order 81 requirements. I know Indu can add more. Indu, is the data available through the user interface, or up to certain point, or is any, or they can download everything through the API? Would you be able to expand on that? I know we have been getting different questions surrounding that too.
Right. It will definitely be available for 5 years in the UI. We are also making provisions to include the API functionality also for 5 years. That is coming soon.
Hey, Indu, I think I had an audio. You have an audio issue. I think we couldn't hear you. Maybe it's me or it's everybody. I don't know. Other people on the call.
No, I wasn't able to hear Indu clearly as well. You were breaking up a little bit, Indu.
Yep. Can you? No, I think you still have audio issues, Indu. Maybe you can switch audio and see.
I'll call you in a minute. Go ahead with the next one. I can respond to that.
Andy, you may need to call into the WebEx if you can. If you can't, then that's okay.
Okay, I think when Indu joins in, we can help with the questions surrounding the compliance requirements for the 5 years. But we will have in the AR, it will be used for our storage. And from a compliance point of view, entities can point to that WebLineR from a storage point of view. The next one is, obviously, this is the question that we definitely get more often surrounding the clearinghouse for the WebLineR, right? As I mentioned earlier, it has the functionality. It can be API is there to download, and it will work if all the TOPs send the ratings, right? So we'll continue to encourage TOPs, especially TOPs that are coordinating with each other. They can work together and send the ratings to this process and utilize the cleared house and clearing house ratings and utilize the lowest rating in our downstream applications.
Hey, Raja, this is Indu. I am calling in.
Yep, Indu, you're loud and clear. Thank you. Go ahead.
Okay. So for the historical data on WebLiner. What I was saying is that it will definitely be available for 5 years on the UI. We are currently working on building the API as well for that. And we will announce that in the, in the next tag meeting or in the stakeholder call when it's available, but definitely for 5 years in the UI at this point.
Thank you, Indu. That's there. The API again. The API for the clearinghouse will be also be available. Next slide, please. So this is another key function that WebLiner will have, right? In addition to the forecasted ratings, AR can be used to supply the real-time ratings to WebLiner. So what does that mean, right? I know earlier we mentioned the current hour ratings. We are working with the TOP through ICCP, but there are some TOPs that plan to utilize WebLiner to send the to send the current hour ratings. So we have the provisions in the WebLiner, the current hour ratings that get used in our real-time processes, not for the market, right? Not for the look-ahead market, just for the real-time reliability purposes, can be sent through an API into WebLiner, and our EMS will receive from that and utilize those ratings in the real-time processes. So that's another feature that we added. One more thing, I think key point is just like our EMS, all our modeling processes, we can receive 1 normal rating and 4 emergency ratings, and it's not a requirement for everybody to use those 4 emergency ratings. I know each TOP, some TOPs have only 1 emergency rating, and some TOPs have 2 and 3. So depending upon their rating methodologies, we can use up to 4 emergency ratings and 1 normal rating, and it's all MVA. We can work with the TOP based upon your needs, how the ratings can be used. Another important thing is once WebLiner is ready and TOP's rating methodologies are ready, we can acquire the rating methodology document, which is another compliance requirement, right? Make sure that TOPs can share their rating methodologies, so we can use this WebLiner as a compliance mechanism where we can exchange the TOPs can exchange the rating methodology document. It will only be available for TOPs, right? It's not for publicly available document in any way. The other part of this, the exceptions to ratings, again, that would be available as well. We will have a mechanism where TOPs can identify what the equipment that are exceptions to the AR ratings, that AR rating is not available, is not being calculated. So it can be identified, and we are not using that in any processes. It's just a information purposes that we have from an RCA point of view. That way we know which entities are not which equipment doesn't have AR. Other than that, we're not doing any checks. We're not planning to do anything and report that, hey, TOP, this equipment does not have AR. We're not planning to do any of that stuff. It's just from a compliance mechanism. I think I have one more slide, maybe next slide, Silas. So going back, if there's any questions on WebLiner, maybe I'll stop here and see any questions that we have not addressed so far in our discussions with the TOPs, in one-on-one calls that we are having with you guys are today. Let us know.
Yes, we do have a hand raised by Rod.
This is more the timeline as far as the submitting the real time with the WebLiner. Is there any kind of a diagram that shows what's the starting time and end time that WebLiner accepts the real time values? And also, do you have any recommendation whether the real time and the forecast values should be submitted together because of these timeline limitations?
Hey,
I can take the
go ahead, Indu. Go ahead. Yeah, Indu, go ahead. Thank you.
I think we had produced a document very earlier on that had this diagram. We can send a link to that. Not sure if it is there in the BRS. We can look into that. If not, we can probably include that there as well. But to answer your second question, you don't have to worry about that. If you're going to send every hour, then the system automatically knows to pick the latest one prior to the cutoff for that real-time market run that we'll be using. And I think that is also described in the business requirement document.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Indu. I know there was one question that Aftab had around when will CAISO publish a list of lines where the AR will be utilized. I think this has a compliance implications too. So maybe there's an opportunity for me to make sure that everybody understands, right? So from an ISO BA point of view, ISO from an ISO BA, ISO PTO responsibilities point of view, ISO is intending to utilize our Oasis to once we start getting the ARs, once start using the ARs in our real-time market, our day-ahead market, on those equipment that has ARs, there's a compliance responsibilities that FERC Order 881 requires us to post those in a publicly, not a publicly password protected OS open access same time information system. So we plan to utilize that from an ISOBA responsibilities, but from the RC West, our market operator role point of view, we're not planning to post any of other TOPs ratings in any of the processes, right? Its responsibility still falls on each of the TOP to make sure that fulfill those obligations for the FERC Order 81 to make it available for market participants, right? So especially if you're participating in EAM market, and you have additional responsibilities to make sure that your market participants have access to those ratings in your in either Oasis or some other form of mechanism. But ISO will not. I hope that addresses the question surrounding, right? We'll not be making any of the TOPs ratings available for market participants through the webinar.
Thank you. I guess we'll go to our next hand that is raised. Saula?
Hey, Raja, it's Saula at SCE. I sent you a few questions from our project team via chat. I don't know if you want to answer them on the air or just respond to me via email.
Salvo, do you think you could repeat one of your questions that you have?
But yeah, I sent a list of questions to Raja via chat. I'd like to see if you could answer those on the air right now, or if you could draft an email to me later.
Yeah. Yes, Sal, I think we'll take a look at that and maybe draft an email to you later. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you.
And I'm not seeing any further hands raised at this moment. Actually, we just got a hand raised by Robert.
Hey there. This is Robert Michette from PG&E. I think we didn't really have a question about WebLiner at the moment, but I was hoping for a little bit more clarity on the TR and the implementation of the four season seasonal ratings for this year. I guess our question is kind of twofold. First, we were kind of hoping to get a little bit more details about the changes to the TR and the adaptation for holding the additional seasonal ratings, and when that might be implemented, and when the expectation to have our fall ratings available is. And then I guess furthermore, we kind of were just looking for a little clarity on what the expectation is for transitioning to 4 seasons this year, considering the extension.
So again, I think as Andrew mentioned, right, I think from a tools point of view, we are planning to make sure that our tools can use those ratings. and it's up to the right. Each PTO has different schedules that we plan to work with, and if they're right, and again, this is where the flexibility comes in for the PTOs and the TOPs. If they plan to utilize those 4 seasonal ratings in your operations, right, we can definitely acquire those and utilize. So, but again, it's a flexibility that gives. Andrew, let me know if I made a mistake there with that assumption.
No, I don't think so. I mean, again, okay, let me back up. We've asked for additional time to complete our design and promote our systems in order to implement order number 881. And we've asked for more time on top of that for our PTOs to come in full compliance with the tariff requirements associated with order 881. Those tariff requirements include kind of an expectation that the transmission owners will have transmission line rating methodologies that are consistent with some of the parameters in Order 881. That includes at least having 4 seasons and seasonal ratings, and then the various other elements that apply to ratings. So we can work through with PG&E any questions they have with respect to when we have to from a compliance perspective put that into place versus from a business need perspective, from PG&E's perspective. So
thank you, Andrew.
Okay. Yeah, thanks, Raja. Thanks, Andrew. I guess the other part of my question too is I think we're just hoping for a little guidance about I think in that timeline that you presented earlier, you said that the TR will be ready to receive seasonal ratings in June. Is that kind of the expectation for when we should be sending over our fall ratings as well, or is that just when we're that functionality is available?
Hey, Robert, I know Robert can help address that question. I know Scott is working with Scott from our TR team. He's working with Scott Vaughan. He's working with each PTO and working with the schedules. I know the tool will be ready. It's manually can be uploaded, but it's so much data. I know the team is looking into can we automate some components of that rather than manually going through each of those components. So there might be some timeline associated with that when each PTO we can implement the 4 seasons. But I think definitely Scott, we can have. I know Scott would be the right person from that point of view. When exactly each PTO's data will come in into the TR.
Roger, that's correct. Actually, the June timeline I had there is when we'll do the market sim for that for the auto load piece of it, for the upload piece of it, with the intention that the tool will be live in July. The rest of the functionality. Now, other than that, then yes, Scott's going to be traveling when each of the entities will be having their own timeline and when they can submit.
Okay, good to know. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. Yep.
Next, we have a hand raised by Charles.
Yeah, this is Charles Santangelo. So just to, from PG&E, just to pick up on what Robbie was saying, who's the contact to work with on the seasonal ratings again?
Scott Vaughan. Scott Vaughan.
Okay. And we would submit a schedule, our proposed schedule in terms of how we want to implement those and anytime after June.
Yep, that is accurate. I think there's as Robert mentioned, there's 2 components, right? The tool will have functionality to manually upload. With the amount of data, the Scott Vaughan's team, they proposed a semi-automation that our implementation team is helping towards. Hopefully that gets cleared, then Scott Vaughan and his team can work with each PTO and acquire those 4 seasonal ratings.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Good question.
And I'm not seeing any other questions coming in at this time. Did you have any final thoughts, Raja, before we wrap up to the next steps?
Yep, I think as I know, there's based upon we're having conversation with one-on-one conversation with some of the TOPs. I think there was an interesting question that came around. If there's an opportunity for us to work together and get everybody's timelines when each entity is planning to be compliant, which components they're planning to be compliant, and when. So we are planning to undertake a survey and reach out to the TOPs through different forums and acquire that information, and then eventually we would like to share this information in some location where each TOP can see it. That where each entity is lining up their implementation. So this is just to make sure that, especially on the tie lines, there's some coordination needed, right? So depending upon their neighbors, when they're planning to be compliant, right, the entities can work with each other to utilize either WebLine R2B for the rating clearinghouse, or when we can do that, right? So those are things that that will help address, especially if we have those timelines together from everybody. So please do. Christina will reach out to you folks through either survey. I know she's thinking about SurveyMonkey or a different mechanism that will I finalize and reach out to you guys to acquire that information. Thank you, Christina. That's it for me.
Thanks, Raja. Yeah, I'll send out more details on that survey shortly. Next slide, please. For additional next steps, the comment template will be up soon on the initiative page, and comments are due April 22nd. If you have any questions that come up in the meantime, feel free to email us also at isostakeholderaffairs@kaiso.com. For any of you who have any unanswered questions, you can also reach out to us at that email, and we can forward your questions along to the relevant folks. Next slide, please. And just a quick announcement before we wrap up. For insights into the ISO grid and market operations, please be on the lookout for our Energy Matters blog, or you can always subscribe. And with that, we'd like to thank you so much for joining today's discussion. As a reminder, this meeting was recorded for informational and convenience purposes only, and the video file will be posted on the initiative webpage. We thank you very much, and we hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Thank you.